Hi everybody, the topic of our project is corporate IT policies. Corporate policy is a documented set of broad guidelines formulated after analysis of all internal and external factors that can affect a firm's objectives, operations, and plans, which also determines the formulation and implementation of strategy, as well as directs and restricts the plans, decisions, and actions of the firm's officers in achievement of its objectives. In this presentation, we will introduce four kinds of corporate policies: password sharing policy, devices security policy, work from home policy, and internet usage policy.
Hi everyone. I'm going to talk about the corporate password sharing policy, which is employed by organizations in order to maintain the data security. As per the policy guidelines, an employee is not allowed to share his password with co-workers or family or friends. There are various best practices followed across organizations in order to comply with the policy, which advise employees to not store their passwords at the obvious places where they can be accessed by the co-workers easily. For example, writing it on a sticky note and leaving it at the desk, or storing it in a file on the desktop. Also, employees are advised to lock their workstations before walking away. Now let's see this video where we can see what happens in real world with this password sharing policy.
Hey Sharon, I forgot my password for the shared drive. I need a file to share with the boss. Can you give me your ID and password? Hey.
Oh sure Peter. My username is my name and password is the name in reverse order.
Passwords are personal and should not be shared. You wouldn't share your toothbrush with anyone. Why would you share the password?
As we see, the policy is not always adhered to in real life, and the primary reason is to maintain productivity at the work. During my past work experience, there happened many situations where an employee's account was locked out as he forgot his password, and in order to restore the account, there is a process to log ticket with the IT services, and the response time for the ticket could be few hours to a couple of days, depending on the availability of the person on the other side, and thus it restricts the employee from accessing the particular application during the time. This leaves the manager with no choice to advise the employee to use co-workers' credentials. Also, when a new team member onboards, he has to give an application to the and this takes again a few days within the time slot. The new team member is given credentials of co-workers to access the application and work on it. During one incident, one of the team members was on leave and he forgot to set his out of office, and thus there was no way his backup could know if he has received any email, and the backup has to work on it. Thus we contacted the employee who was on leave, and since he did not have access to the internet from the location where he was, the backup person had to use his credentials and set his out of office, and also look at the emails that his mailbox had received. There could be other situations where the violation is not intentional. For example, an employee forgets to lock his workstation before leaving, and a co-worker peeks in to see some data or access some restricted information. There could be phishing attempts where an employee tricks his co-worker to reveal his credentials and uses to hack the data. Now there could be potential threats when the policy is violated, when a new team member is given access to certain application without proper training. He could commit various mistakes, and that would also lead to question of the accountability of the consequences. Also, inadvertent access to restricted resources leaves the data in vulnerable situation. Now, how do employees encourage compliance with password sharing policy within the organization? The employer should conduct frequent training sessions to spread awareness among the employees about importance of the password sharing policy. And I believe this culture should flow will always flow from top to down. So if managers adhere to such policies, their subordinates would take their examples and will follow their steps. Also, employers should enforce disciplinary action in case of a person found violating the policies. In order to avoid scenarios where the policy is violated, in order to maintain productivity at the workplace, employers should ensure that the response time for tickets of account logged out is less. And also, when a new employee is getting onboarded on the team, the process should be started well ahead in time, so that by the time the employee joins the team, he has all the required access and there is no need to share the passwords. So that was about the password sharing policy. Thank you.
Now I'm going to talk about devices security policy in corporate environment. So the first is about background of the policy. The most common challenge is that people do not recognize that handheld or mobile devices represent a threat to IT and data security in corporate environments. As a result, they often do not apply the same security and data protection guidelines as they would on other devices such as desktop computers. Handheld devices combine security challenges posed by laptops, removable storage, for example USB keys, and cameras. This outline policy gives a framework for securing devices and should be linked to other policies which support organizational posture on IT and data security. So the purpose of the policy. This security policy establishes rules for the proper use of devices in corporate environments in order to protect the confidentiality of sensitive data, the integrity of data and applications, and the availability of services at the corporation, protecting both handheld devices and their users, as well as corporate asset continuity of the business, which applies to all employees, consultants, vendors, students, and others using business or private devices. I worked as an intern in Sony China Research Laboratory and Samsung Advanced Institute of Technology. I had some experience of employees, devices privacy, and security policies there. So on my first day in both SCRL and site, I was told by my supervisor that mobile phone with camera and personal laptops are not allowed inside the corporation. And I was not allowed to connect to the internet either. So the only access I have is to the local network. And according to CIO, 25% of respondents do not believe that mobile security is their responsibility, nor do they believe that they should suffer any consequences if corporate data on the phone is compromised. It appears that those responsible for enforcing security feel the same way as the phone users. And 34% stated that they were never punished for lost or stolen phone, while another 21% reported that the only repercussion was a stern talk with leadership and nothing more. So the reality is that A lost or stolen phone could result in the loss of thousands, if not millions of dollars, depending on what is stored on the phone and what can be accessed from it. The careless attitude that so many employees have toward mobile security could be financially devastating to a company of any size. The average cost of a breach is approximately $150 per file compromised. So for a small or middle-sized firm, a lost phone could be a fatal blow.
Let me introduce you to telecommuting, or work from home policy. This is one of the most disputed policy in IT world. Should we give employees opportunity to work remotely? If yes, then for how many days? How do we control the results? This is one of the main questions the manager would need to cover during creation of such policy. By the best practices, the structure of such policy should include the description of the policy, eligibility or who is able to participate in working from home, steps for initiating the telecommute, number of days for which it can be taken, procedures for telecommuting, or step-by-step description of how it should work, health and safety clauses, methods for reporting, privacy and confidentiality clauses, device usage procedures, and other clauses. As all other company policies, this policy imposes both benefits and complications. The benefits include the flexibility, better life-work balance, accessibility, less cost, better for environment. The complications include loss of team spirit, hard to synchronize, hard to monitor, harder collaboration, and the complications with the creative thinking and brainstorming. As for the legislative basis for this policy, there are a number of not regulated issues. Therefore, as this policy is not hardly regulated from the state's law, the company can decide what suits best for its needs. As such, in 1991, AT&T decided to embrace this policy and saved around $500 million on office expenses. However, Yahoo recently decided to cut off this policy because of employees taking advantage from it. It caused the huge dispute over using the IT policy in work from home. In addition, recent lawsuits against Ford Motor Company for denying a disabled workers a request for telecommute may start the precedent for ubiquitous usage of telecommuting policies towards disabled employees. Let's forward to the video explaining the telecommuting in details.
Minute MBA. Telecommuting is good for you and good for business. When 5 months pregnant, Marissa Mayer accepted the position of CEO of Yahoo, family-oriented employees everywhere were hoping her hiring would kick off a work-life balance revolution. However, her recent ban on telecommuting seems like a big step back in time. While Meyer has her reasons, many experts agree that telecommuting is actually good for business. Here are a handful of the benefits Yahoo will be missing out on by disallowing telecommuting. 1. Increased productivity. One Stanford study shows call center employees increase their productivity 13% when allowed to work from home. A study from University of Texas Austin shows telecommuters work 5 to 7 hours more than their in-office counterparts. While it's easy to think there are too many distractions for employees working from home, the truth is quite the contrary. 2. Reduced turnover. The cost of turnover is relative to each company, but always considerable. By allowing telecommuting, employees will be happier and therefore less likely to quit. Studies show 73% of telecommuters reported being happy with their employer compared to just 64% of commuters. Allowing employees to telecommute isn't just about working in pajamas. It shows employees that their managers trust them, boosting esteem and motivation. 3. Improved morale, reduced stress. Americans hate driving to work, and telecommuting reduces employees' need to spend money on expensive clothes, fuel, and more. Plus, there's less stress in preparing for a day of work from home. A study from Pennsylvania State University shows telecommuters are regularly less stressed and happier than people working in office. 4. Saving the world. Alright, saving the world is a tall order, but the Consumer Electronics Association did a study that showed telecommuting saves enough energy to power 1 million homes in the United States for an entire year, making telecommuting just another way businesses can reduce their carbon footprint. To watch more videos from the Minute MBA series, check out onlinemba.com.
I will introduce Internet Usage Policy. An Internet Usage Policy provides employees with rules and guidelines about the appropriate use of company equipment, network, and Internet access. Having such a policy in place helps to protect both the business and the employee. The employee will be aware that browsing certain sites or downloading files is prohibited and that the policy must be adhered to or there could be serious repercussions, thus leading to few security risks for the company as a result of employee negligence. This policy plays an essential role to maintain the normal business process and to assist with the information security. The Internet Usage Policy is an important document that must be signed by all employees before they start their work. This way, they will know that the computers and the Internet access lines are intended to further the company's goal. The Internet Usage Policy can be different in each organization. The policy can be tailored to the requirements of the specific organizations. In real situation, many companies have a limitation of Internet access of social media websites such as Facebook, Twitter, and online shop websites such as Amazon and eBay. When I worked as a web developer intern in VR technology, my company also had the limitation of Internet access of these websites. At that time, I did not quite understand the idea of this policy because I thought browsing this website would help me gain more inspiration. But now I partly understand the worry of companies. A 2010 Salary.com survey indicates that, on average, around 64 of workers wasting 1 hour or less each day at work, while 14 waste 3 or more hours each workday. 48 of this time is spent surfing the web. So I think the main purpose for this policy is to make the employees focus on their work and to help them improve their work efficiency. There are some points of Internet usage policy to make it more acceptable to the employees. First, stating the reasons for the policy help make sure employees don't feel their right to privacy is being needlessly infringed. There are many reasons to monitor employee computer use. Mention some of them in the policy. Second, describing what constitutes improper use of employee-owned equipment is important. Policy should include language that clearly defines and limits the employee's authorization to access the computer, use of information accessed or obtained from the computer. Third, be sure to also include a description of proper employee computer use in the policy. If the employees use social media to interact with their customers, this activity will need to be described and differentiated from improper use of the same social media websites. Fourth, the policy should prohibit unauthorized encryption of information such as email on business computers, such as with solutions like PGP. And last, to make it possible to enforce the computer use policy, state that violating the policy can lead to disciplinary action and be specific. Describe whether warnings are required before action is taken and what the action may consist of. This is our references of this presentation, and thank you for your listening.